Guys, Dimir Tempo is the best thing to be doing in Standard right now.
No, Josh, the Dimir Excruciator is the best Dimir strategy in Standard.
Hey guys, listen, I've got an alternative. This week on battlechads.
Yeah! Hello everybody and welcome to this next episode of Battlechads. I'm Josh and I'm joined by my co-host Sam. Hi Sam.
Hi everyone, how are we doing?
Yeah, I'm good. This is a special episode, I guess. Not usually. We're sort of like doing a deck tech this week instead of a sort of featured episode because Giannmarco recently, who's with us right now, part of Team Chad Magic, has had a tweet that has gone sort of a bit viral. But before we go into the viral tweet and why it's gone so viral, Giannmarco, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me here again. Really happy to be here. Really happy to talk again about a good mid-range deck that I think can shake up a bit the meta. So yeah, really eager to tell you a bit why I like to play this deck, beside the fact it's a good deck and it's a mid-range deck, and what kind of place it has in the meta. So yeah, thank you for having me.
Giannmarco, you gained infamy in the team because I was giving you a lot of stick for taking Golgari mid-range into at the RC that you qualified at the Pro Tour. You then qualified for your first Pro Tour with Golgari mid-range. So you are a mid-range master, I'd say, especially within the team.
I don't think so, but I wear that let's say medal with pride. I think I was the only person that made it to the PT with Golgari mid-range, so I'm kind of happy. Although a lot of players actually had quite some success with the list, they were very close. So a couple of day 2 at RC with a similar list. So yeah, that's me.
But you've done a spin on mid-range, so you've gone not against the grain per se, but you've took an amalgamation of the sort of Dimir decks that have been happening in Standard right now, so Dimir Tempo, Dimir Excruciator, and you've sort of combined and then mashed them together and created this Dimir mid-range deck. That's a lot. It's quite fair in some aspects, but also really powerful in others, and that's what we're going to talk about for this episode is your take on Dimir, which is quite interesting considering we've had Control Freak last week, didn't we, Sam? Talking all things Dimir, but mainly on like a tempo sort of angle, where yours is going to be very much taking it to the mid-range. But before we talk more about you, Giannmarco, and also the deck, Sam, have you got some words for us?
Regardless whether you love to represent Golgari mid-range or maybe some good Magic decks like Dimir Tempo instead, or maybe even check out this episode and like the look of Marco's mid-range list, you got to protect it. Best way to protect it at the moment is with UltraPRO. We are very happy to be sponsored. We are a Chad Magic podcast, therefore we are sponsored by UltraPRO. Very happy. I think since we have been sponsored, I've been pretty impressed with UltraPRO products. The new line is their Apex sleeves, which are basically really nice shuffle feeling sleeves, but with pretty sick art on as well. I've always been a bit unhappy with art sleeves in the past, but I like the way these Apex ones stand up. When I'm working, I literally sit at home and shuffle my decks as I'm thinking, just as something to do, and they always look pristine and fantastic, and I've not had one break on me yet. They've kind of gone for this video game thing at the moment. I know they've got like Oblivion sleeves. I mean, I'm sold at Oblivion sleeves, Doom sleeves, both new and old retro Doom, which is actually pretty sick. So if you need a way to protect your collection or your cards, pick UltraPRO.
Yes, very good. So, Giannmarco, we sort of know you're one of the Pro Tour qualified, or you were qualified for the Pro Tour within the team, you and along with Matchek. So, you know, pretty big. I don't want to say shoes to fill, but I guess it is shoes to fill for following your footsteps within your Magic competitive career. But there is more controversy because I am a Dimir Tempo truther and you are a Dimir mid-range truther. So tell me, Marco, why have you taken the beautiful thing that is Dimir Tempo or Dimir Excruciator and turned it into this fairer mid-range sort of deck? So what was the inspiration for this?
So first of all, let's start with the name of the deck. So
okay.
I feel like there's so much confusion right now
Yeah.
on Dimir deck names,
Mhm.
because normally the Kaito deck is known as Dimir Midrange.
Yeah.
This deck, I saw it now being classified as either Dimir Deceit or Dimir Reanimator, so I
Okay.
decided to
Yeah.
call it Reanimator simply because I don't know, it felt a bit closer to what it's trying to do, but it's not a pure Reanimator deck. For me,
Mhm.
it's the mid-range.
Mhm.
But I know the moment I call it mid-range, people will think it's a Kaito list,
Yeah.
which,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
you said, is a tempo list. Anyway, so we can discuss what's the best name. I like Dimir Reanimator. I also like Dimir Deceit, but um, yeah, but these things are not that important, let's say. What matters is why I picked this deck and why I didn't pick the tempo one. So I admit I did try the Dimir tempo version, so the one with Kaito.
Mhm.
Um, Somehow I tried to make it work with the new fairy package. It was not really my thing, in a sense that that deck also struggles to really make use of Bitter Blossom, at least as a
Yeah.
turn two play, just because of the mana base. And you really like the man lands, so you don't want to cut them for that kind of mana base.
Mhm.
So I don't know. I was not really feeling it. I'm probably not a very good tempo player myself, so that definitely helped me change my mind. And also there was a lot of Dimir mid-range, sorry, tempo,
Mhm.
running around on arena, but also paper events. I don't know about you guys, but here is very represented, the Kaito version. And I like to play a deck that prey on the deck that are play the most. And that's why I actually went to mid-range, because this deck, believe it or not, Josh, has a very good matchup against the Dimir Kaito version.
Yeah.
Is running a lot of removal, like a lot of good spot removal. Is
Mhm.
running hand hate, so you can get rid on, turn two, you play your Deceit, you get rid of their Kaito. Um, your creatures can just snowball, right? You have
Mhm.
Riddlers, you have, I mean, the seat itself can swing really the game. If you go turn two the seat, then turn four you do the Spider-Man thing.
Mhm.
Um, Preacher is maybe is a bit controversial. Maybe I have a soft spot for Preacher, but
I have a
that
soft
card
spot for Preacher.
can.
I have a really soft spot for Preacher.
Okay, so we
Yeah.
are in this together.
Yeah.
That's great. Preacher can just steal games. Like,
Can.
it starts accumulating value. It's a great blocker. It can also block Kaito, assuming Kaito cannot stun it. Um, so I created a deck also to beat the mirror mid range. And overall, the deck is also very well placed when it comes to beating cup decks, which were quite popular. Now
Mhm.
they're a bit in decline. And it's also pretty good against Airband. It has a good matchup. However, the matchup that it struggles a bit with is Lessons and Landfall. So
Okay.
Landfall now really exploded in popularity. So I'm not gonna lie, this deck, if you want to prey on Landfall, I wouldn't recommend playing this deck, to be fully honest.
Mhm.
Um, it doesn't have a horrible matchup. I think if you have the right sideboard cards, and that's what I attempted to do, I think you can win that matchup, but it's not gonna be easy. Especially, I think game one,
Mhm.
there's a very high chance they just destroy you, especially with the enchantment that creates three folks. So yeah, overall that's a bit why I put together the deck. Yeah, I had more Dimir tempo in mind, and Airband as well, and Simic Cup. Those were the targets. Lesson was going quite down. The deck also has a decent matchup against Leaving End. I should have mentioned that, because you're running Spider-Man yourself,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you're actually milling a lot of cards between, Winter Night Stories, Marang, and so
Mhm.
on. So there is a very weird matchup, to be fair, but they definitely don't want to mill their own, how you call it, Arden,
Yes.
right? Because then you get Arden turn four with your
Yes.
Spider-Man, and yeah, it gets really awkward. Um, so yeah, that's a bit why I play the deck. It's been serving me well. So I managed to top eight back to back two relatively big paper events. Uh, I easily cruise through Mythic in Arena. So sporting, I think I'm now have 68% win rate, 69, something like that,
Nice.
which I think is pretty good over a
Very good.
number
Yeah.
of games, of course. Um, So yeah, deck I think is great. Deck I think has legs to really do well. I saw one person brought it at the Arena Championship. So I saw one Dimir Deceit mentioned. I don't know how it did, but I also saw other players online having good results with it. So I really think it's a good contender, the deck.
Yeah, and I think I just want to, usually when we look at standard as a format, there is a best deck, and then when we try and cater to the deck text from a podcast point of view, we always try to find like something that's got a good matchup against the best deck, and it is a bit of a rogue or meta killer. But realistically, what's really interesting about standard at the moment is there is no best deck. I think every deck's the best deck. Just depends on the weekend. Marco made a very good point as well. It's not got a good landfall matchup, but in 2 weeks' time, landfall is not going to be the deck to beat.
Yeah.
And that's how a strategy like this can really shine.
Correct.
In the fact that needs a right weekends, the strategy's strong and it's pretty tested. I've actually played a couple of these with this myself. And I really like this deck. So I'm excited to take a bit of a deeper look at some card selection.
Yeah. And as every mid-range deck, it's flexible. So there is not like one component, maybe beside the Deceit and Spider-Man, but there is not really one component you cannot switch with something else to adapt to the meta. So, the moment I saw landfall becoming so prevalent, I started, and also Lesson having now a resurgence, I started putting cards like Annul.
Yeah.
Right? Or Disdain's Full Stroke. Those two cards actually do quite some heavy lifting in the landfall matchup. And because you have to play the control deck there. You're not the beatdown. You have to, just kill everything that moves more or less, and every sort of enchantment they throw at you, and then you will just win just because of the value you create, between Riddler, Winter Night Stories, and stuff like that.
This deck is unique when it comes to enchantments. I know we'll talk about it more in the deck tech, but when it comes to enchantments, you can Spider-Man it away. You can Deceit, and then if they land one of the problematic enchantments that they have, you can then just bounce it and strip it from the hand anyway. So there is answer. I mean, it's clunky. It's a clunky answer, and it's they've already accumulated value from it at that point. But it's still, if you don't manage to answer it on the stack, there's still an out to it being answered on the board. Where for me, Dimir Midrange, as in the tempo version, if the enchantment lands, it's there, and I have to try and kill them before it kills me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Cool. So shall we look at the deck and we'll go through it? So typical battlechads style of deck text, what we'll do is we'll break down the sort of creature packages and then the spells that you're in, and then we'll go look at the land package because there's some important lands in this deck, and then we'll go on the sideboard. I will say that, Marco, your tweet that went viral the other day was actually a sideboard guide and primer. Deck list and primer, and that's on Moxfield. So what we'll do is we'll attach the Moxfield link in the description below, and then people can go on the Moxfield, see the deck list, and also on Moxfield, I'll show you right here, the primer is there. So you'll be able to see all the primer, ins and outs, sideboard, all that good stuff. If you're quick with your print screening, you'll be able to see right there. Those are on YouTube, but it's there in the Moxfield link under primer. Good to go. All free as well. Cheers, Marco.
My pleasure. Happy to help.
So let's start with the creature package. So we mentioned before about Deceit, so we'll start there. So this is I guess something where you've taken from the sort of Dimir Reanimator package. The Sultai Reanimator package, but also the sort of Dimir Excruciator package, which won the Pro Tour, and you decided this is good. I'm going to hedge my value on this, combining that with Spider-Man. So talk to me about Deceit, and I guess in the same token about Spider-Man as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, Deceit is amazing. I love the card. So I used to love casting Thoughtseize back in the Pioneer days. I still also love it still in Modern to cast it. So anything that makes me mess with your hand, I instantly love it. And this creature is amazing because you probably can do it, twice. After you cast Deceit, you evoke it for black, and then you can, turn 4, you can cast it with Spider-Man. So, you can pick their best card twice. It's not as OP as Grief was in Modern, thank God, but it's definitely a good card that sparks joy. And what I want to say, and maybe it's not everybody really makes use of the blue on turn 2. Sometimes actually that is the right line of play. Again, obviously everything is board state dependent.
Mm-hmm.
But there might be spot where actually the double blue, yeah, it really gives you the tempo you need. And this, for example, against more aggressive decks. Yeah, so if you're against a red deck, which actually this deck is a really good matchup against, but if you're against a red deck, you might want to double blue, so to throw them off, a bit off their curve. So that this is totally reasonable play to do. But then, of course, it really shines when you can play turn 2, right? So turn 2 Deceit, turn 4 Spider-Man, copy that, get both the ETB, so the bounce and the hand disruption. Just make sure you stack your triggers correctly.
Yes.
Especially if you're like playing arena.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
think
in paper, people might know what you want to do, but in arena, yeah, you have to be careful also how the way you tap your lands.
just to hop in there for those who might not know, I was having quite an interesting discussion about Superior Spider-Man the other day. This card, however you think this card works, it doesn't work like that. It's a very unique ability and unique effect, especially for standard. So what Marco was just touching upon there, which I think, apologies for interrupting Marco, but I think it's definitely worth highlighting because it is unintuitive, right? If you pull up the seat quickly for me there, Josh, sorry.
Yep.
So we've seen the cycle of elementals, double color effect and or effect, evoke of 2 for, you can put 2 blue and whatever into it.
Mm-hmm.
If you spend double blue, double black on your Spider-Man, because Spider-Man enters as a copy of that card, Spider-Man checks what colors you've spent. And if you spend double blue, double black, and you copy your Deceit, you get both abilities. If you spend double blue, red, red, you get the bounce. If you spend double black, green, green, then you get the 40 style effect there. So what Marco's talking about is the fact that you can actually, naturally, the Dimir deck, right? So your mana is pretty good for casting double blue, double black spells. But as you cast your Spider-Man and it copies Deceit, what would you say, Marco? 99% of the time you get both effects there.
Yeah.
It's really weird card, but it's actually not but I think it's like an actual cornerstone of this strategy. Is that right?
Yeah. This is so I don't think I ever cut Deceit or Spider-Man. I mean, Spider-Man, there might be the argument against some decks that run Rest in Peace to maybe trim 1 or 2 copies, maybe. So there could be the argument there, but Deceit, to me, is untouchable. So I never ever touch that card. So it always stays in. It's just so strong.
I mean, Spider-Man's still a 4-mana 4/4 in a pinch, right? Like all the graveyard hate in the world, and then you just play a 4-mana 4/4 and beat them with it. Like,
I was testing against Maciek yesterday, and he was on airband, and actually that's exactly what happened. So I beat him to death with my vanilla 4/4. He couldn't answer it. So.
draft commons, winning games of standard is the best way.
Exactly.
But,
so yeah.
Yeah, I just think, just to focus on Deceit a little bit more, I think that when the spoilers come out, oh wow, Wistfulness is so good. It's Wistfulness.
Deceit.
But I think what a lot of people missed, and I definitely missed, I remember the first time somebody casted Deceit against me, double blue, double black. Oh, I'm going to bounce that creature and then I'm going to 4-tease it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a removal spell. The card is absolutely cracked and has easily taken place as the best evoke elemental. Would you guys say?
Is this Ravenous Chupacabra?
It's a 6-mana.
6-mana Ravenous Chupacabra that hits more than creatures.
Power crept Chupacabra. 2026, everyone.
Yes, that's actually a very good way to put it.
I built up Sultai Reanimator, which is a really fun deck, and so I just built it up because I had most of the cards for it. And I was like in my head questioning, hang on, if I copy one thing with Spider-Man and then I've got another Spider-Man and I copy that, Spider-Man's a legendary creature, but it comes in as a non-legendary version of a card, right? So you can actually have multiple Superior Spider-Mans on the battlefield too, which I think, which is what Sam was saying about, being counterintuitive. I just thought I'd like to add that. You can have multiple copies of Superior Spider-Man on the board, copying whatever creature in that bin.
Yeah, unless it's a legendary creature. Unless you copy a legendary creature.
Yeah. Sorry. So you can't have 2 Ardins out, for example.
Look, however you think Superior Spider-Man works, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It really doesn't.
Always kill the judges, guys.
Yeah, it's definitely a judge breaker. Sorry, carry on, Marco. Sorry.
Yeah, maybe one last word about Deceit, which is actually linked to the mana base. So now I'm jumping a bit to the mana base because I had this question before, so I thought the viewers might also find it interesting. The question was, hey, look at your mana base. You're not running Excruciator. Why the hell are you running so many swamps? So that was one of the question I got. So this is obviously my take, but I try to maximize the double black untap turn 2. So that's why I'm playing so many swamps. So there could be an argument for adding one more island or something, but I wanted to maximize the chances of having black untap turn 2. So this is the configuration that I feel like grants me this kind of setup. You don't want to go, turn 1, I don't know, swamp Restless Reef and then play an island or playing a tap land and then, do the sea thing turn 3. Like you're really gonna fall behind on tempo. And the deck already plays, I would say, a good amount of tap lands. So there's 6 in total.
Yeah, it's quite a
There
lot.
could be even an argument to cut even one of them. But yeah, that's why I have so many swamps really. And the deck functions well. I never really had big issues about the double blue because you have so many other lands that can provide black and blue at the same time. So it feels good, the mana base, at least from my perspective. Yeah.
I mean, just looking at it, I mean, we'll talk more about that later, but just looking at it seems like the most important color, particularly till I'd say turn 3, turn 4 is black. Like,
Yeah.
you don't really need to hit a blue land until turn 3, turn 4. Just looking, you got your Deceits, and then we've got the next card we're going to talk about, which is Harvester of Misery, sorry. Obviously, turn 2 Overlords, turn 3 Preachers, and in between that, you've got all your black interaction. But yeah, so are you happy there? Do you want to move on to the next sort of creatures?
Yeah, sure.
So you've opted in for 2 copies of Harvest of Misery.
Yes.
Misery.
So
Misery.
this is the typical flex slot. Let's call it like that. So it's very meta dependent. So this is here mainly for the cup decks. So the one like Simic Cup, this kind of decks. I mean, obviously it's good also against the Dimir Tempo because most of their creatures have 1 toughness, or 2. And also this card is great, right? Because you can discard it and then you can use Superior Spider-Man again, get again the ETB, wipe their board again. So it can be really brutal against a certain type of decks. Of course, as I said, it's a flex slot. So against the landfall, mentioning the popular one, is not particularly great. So you could have the little chocobo, right? But chances are it's already a monster of a bird. And okay, you might still get them with the if they're playing cup, but yeah, it's not that great to just shoot it on a cup turn 2. It's okay, but not that great. Then just moving on, we have the Marang River Regent. So I love this card, and I have to thank a friend of mine here who was playing a similar version of this deck, and he kind of convinced me to play it, and I put it in and I couldn't remove it anymore. It's just great.
Yeah.
Obviously, you draw cards. That's always good in Magic. You also discard card, which is especially good in this deck. But also, again, you can copy it with Superior Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And then you bounce 2 of their creature back to their hand. Sorry, not creature, non-land permanent, so it's even better.
Yeah, so it'd be like, anything.
Yeah. So it's really yeah, I really love the card. It made me win so many games. Last RCQ, I think it really carried me to the top 8. So yeah, I really love it. Only problem again, landfall. This card against landfall is not exactly the best, because it cannot bounce lands unless you're playing paper. So on MTG Arena they don't allow you to do that. Probably also on paper events. And that's a bit of a drawback. So I remember losing to landfall just because I couldn't bounce their very, very big scary land. it's also awkward a bit to bounce some of the enchantment they have, because then they're like the Ascension just gives them a new Earthbend creature, and yeah, it's not making much. Yeah, but beside that, really love it. Then moving on, we have Overlord of Baelmerk. Again, it's a turn 2 play. Great card. You play Deceit turn 2. Turn 3, you play that. You get back your Deceit. You play it again. Turn 4, you rip it apart.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, this card does so much. Obviously, also amazing when you copy with Superior Spider-Man because it grants you another ETB. So if you notice everything here as ETB beside the Preacher, yeah, this card is just good. It grinds games, and for long games, it just provides a stream of value. So pretty good. Then we have Preacher. So this is the more true mid-range card. Doesn't do too much when you copy it with Spider-Man, although it's still a good target. But I wanted to have something that I could play on turn 3 and that could stop any sort of aggression. And it works also pretty good against Dimir Tempo, which is one of the things the deck tried to prey upon. And obviously very good against control. If they cannot, deal with it, you start generating value and card advantage. So yeah, really, really like it. Again, it's a flex slot in a way, so you could play some other cards instead if you don't like the Preacher. But yeah, I'm a big fan of it personally.
This card, like, so I recently 5-0'd with Dimir Midrange, and I had 3 copies of this in my list, 2 in the main, 1 on the side. Yeah. This card single-handedly won games. Like, this card was so good. Like, just slam it down. I think I was against a red deck, and he used 2 burn spells on it, and I was like, deal. Like, that's
there is also
that's 5-6 points of damage not going to my face, and it's a 2-for-1 deal. And then you just indiscriminately attack. It's class.
Yeah. There is also another interesting thing about Preacher that you can actually it kind of synergizes a bit with Requiting Hex. So because you could just give it the -1/-1 counter, it will still have that touch.
Yeah.
Which at the end of the day is probably what you need, but it grants you 2 life. And talking about Hex, you can use the same trick with Deceit as well.
Yes.
So while the trigger is on stack, you just hex something and you give the -1/-1 to your Deceit, which is gonna die anyway. Same story with Riddler when you warp it. So Hex made me gain a lot of life with that mode. It's pretty relevant. I mean, and sometimes 2 life is the difference between winning and losing, right? So
yes,
that's I really like the card. Then moving on, you have Riddler. I mean, I don't think we need to tell why Riddler is good. I think everybody knows it.
Card is good.
Card is good. I think I might increase the count to 3, just because it's generating so much value. Maybe play more Duress main board, and then refill your hand with Riddler. I feel like Riddler is the unholy annex of Standard right now.
Yeah.
I used to play a lot that card, but now I'm like, yeah, I should just be playing Riddler. It's pretty much the same almost, right? But feels even better. Yeah, so Riddler is great. And of course you have the warp thing with Riddler, right? So not only is cool with Hex, but a typical thing that happens is that you warp Riddler and then you have Winter Night Stories in your graveyard. And then just for 1 blue, you draw 3 cards by tapping the Riddler and then discarding. So this is a very typical interaction of the deck. That's also why we're running here 4 Winter Night Stories. I think the card is really cracked, to be honest. Like, it didn't feel that popular. I think the Excruciator list was just running 2. But I feel like in this deck, it's just so good. Just because you're running Riddler main and so many other creatures that can tap for the harmonized cost and just make it cost 1 mana. Yeah.
On the topic of your creatures, Marco, one thing on the topic of your creatures, one thing I really like is that outside of Overlord of the Baelmerk, which you don't really want a Spider-Man anyway, and outside of Deceit, which is your main Spider-Man plan, I like that all of your backup Spider-Manable creatures have some form of evasion. We've got Menace flying, Death Touch flying, like pretty gnarly. Like I like in some instances where like Spider-Man typically attacks really well because it's usually copied something that, I mean, standard creatures at the moment usually have some form of evasion or some form of hidden element on them, and I like that Spider-Man really abuses that side. Like 4/4 Menace isn't anything to be laughed at. 4/4 Flyer isn't anything to be laughed at, especially when a card like Sackland Nursery makes 3/4 reaches. You know, there is like, it is nice that Spider-Man does get on in there quite a bit. And I think when I was playing this deck, one thing I really enjoyed doing, maybe it was a bit too frequently I did it, but I really like Spider-Man in my opponent's creatures. You know, like I get, you know, I there was a sick line I made with this where I got back there, Magmatic Hellkite, destroyed Cavern of Souls, and then Disdainful stroked their dragon the turn after. Like there are some really cool lines with Spider-Man, and like, this is a silly question because it's a hypothetical, but you know, if Spider-Man didn't exist, would this deck still be the same, or is it really secretly a Spider-Man deck?
I think it's a Spider-Man deck. I don't think you can replace Spider-Man. It will just make the whole Deceit plan not that interesting, in my opinion. Like you won't be able to really abuse it. So that's my take. I mean, I guess you could play, like I saw players trying the scam package with Not Dead After All. Yeah. But it doesn't feel that good. You know, you don't get the ETB back from the seat, so okay, you're scamming it. That's great, but yeah, it didn't feel that good in my opinion.
I think that I saw that list, and that list only works great if the elemental text, really. You know, for your what's it called, Sunderflux and that sort of thing. But I reckon there's a deck that's doing that better kind of stuff. Well, I guess they're still playing Deceits, but they're not really casting it for black. But yeah, I think that's the only real. And they're not really.
And on that deck, and on that deck, actually, this one has a very good matchup against Spell Elementals. One, because you're running Deceit, so it's an elemental, so it doesn't get bounced. And then obviously you're running Spider-Man, which can be an elemental as well.
Yeah.
So it is actually quite a good matchup against that deck, I found. So that's for me also another good reason to play more the deck. Yeah.
Cool.
What's going on with this? No, I was just going to say, what is going on with this one copy of Data Black Sun? Tell me about that.
So this maybe is me being a bit special, so to say, but I love on mid-range decks, I always like to play one sweeper. One sweeper that is, let's say, not the typical Day of Judgment, but something that is like a one-sided sweeper. Now, on a way, we have it with Harvester, but instead of playing the third Harvester, I thought, okay, I want to have a Day of Black Sun. Because it's really a one-sided sweeper. If you think about it,
I like the one on this list. I really do, for that reason.
Yeah, and it always catches people off guard, 100%. They will just try to spam, creatures on the board, and then they get a Day of Black Sun. It's also very good again against Dimir. So I was expecting a lot of Dimir in my meta, and this deck is like Day of Black Sun is pretty good because kind of wipes everything. It also gets rid of the cat, so the cat loses the ability to come back. It's also good against the landfall, actually, because if they have all those beautiful tree folks, right, and then they want to give it indestructible to save them from a sweeper, well, they cannot, because then they're gonna lose all the ability.
Yeah.
So that's why I put it. I wanted a one-side sweeper. It's a flex slot. If you don't like it, you don't need to play it at all costs. But I just like it. Sometimes you win randomly games with it. I was a big fan of Extinction Event back in the days to have it in my mid-range decks because nobody, usually plays around it.
Yeah.
So
is that the one that, like, the 5 or 6 mana one that did a few different things?
Extinction Event, odd even, 4 mana.
Oh yeah.
Correct.
What was the one that Dimir Midrange used to play? It was like 5-6 mana, and then you could
That was Gig's Command.
I used to love a made deck copy of that.
Yeah, I had 2 of them in my RC Bologna list, and I love that. So I don't know. I always like board wipes in my mid-range deck, especially the ones that are more one-sided, because then you just take over the game immediately. Yeah, then we have Intimidation Tactics. I mean, I like it. I think in the meta is really well placed, so that's why I'm running it. I have 1 of Strategic Betrayal. Again, it's a meta call, so you don't need to play it at all cost, but there's plenty of deck that abuse graveyards, and yeah, that's your answer. Always good to have it. I have an additional 1 in the side, but I like it 1 off. I didn't also want to have too many hexes. I love the card, but I found in my test that 4 are a bit too many.
I found
Sometimes
the same.
it's just
I found the same.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. So I cut 1, put a Strategic Betrayal. I mean, sometimes it feels very bad to play Betrayal, but sometimes it's just amazing. So, and then Bitter Triumph. Yeah, go ahead.
Just on Betrayal, like I've run 1 copy in my sideboard currently with the deck I'm playing, and I bring it in against like lessons and stuff, because it's like, even if I'm not killing anything, it's just remove your graveyard, start again kind of thing. And like, it can be really like game changing interaction, but also it can just feel like really bad. Like if you draw that against lands or something, and they've got like loads of what do you call it, earthbended lands, he's just like, this card's terrible.
It's pretty bad against the landfall. It's not doing much. But yeah, in some other, I mean, it might be also relevant against landfall. Maybe you exile all their fabled passages, and they cannot do the I Steal for maybe
I
one.
suppose, yeah.
But that's really the bottom, I would say.
Yeah, and honestly, with the way this deck's constructed, I'm not a huge fan of one-ofs, fun-ofs, unless it's actually built into my deck that I don't have to play with them if I don't want to. So, like, when me and Josh worked on Dimir Midrange a little bit, and the one thing we kept saying or finding was, wow, I really can't get rid of these cards. There's no way, if I draw 3 hexes against control, I can't turn that into value. Whereas this deck naturally turns, I'm against Reanimator. Well, I'm actually going to use my Winter Night Stories to dig for my copy, Strategic Betrayal, and I'm going to pitch these hexes along the way, right? I'm against control, I'm going to pitch these hexes along the way. I'm trying to think of another, but like, we were saying before about, Spider-Man's pretty bad against Rest in Peace, and that's where it's at its worst. You just get to discard it, Winter Night Stories. Like, a card like Winter Night Stories really lets you get away with a lot during deck building. And I like that this deck takes advantage of that. It recognizes what it's actually able to get away from. In standard at the moment, I think it's the wrong standard format to get greedy in or hope to get lucky in deck building. Really important skill. But if you try and get lucky against Cub, they're just going to kill you on turn 4 if you draw badly. So a deck like this being able to actually play these one-offs, but if it can't utilize them, at worst you discard it to Winter Night Stories and carry on. Like I really like that.
Or Marang, River Regent.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, the deck can filter these, let's call it, bad cards in the wrong matchup. For sure.
Really cool deck design.
And yeah, I mean, that's it pretty much. I mean, Bitter Triumph, great. You can discard a card, so you could also use it to then reanimate it later with Spider-Man. Shoot the Sheriff, again, it's a meta call. I know you could also play Heartless Act instead. It's really meta dependent. Shoot the Sheriff, unfortunately, cannot target certain cards like the Bitter Blossom. Unfortunately, you cannot target with it. The Aven that Airband plays it's a mercenary, unfortunately, so you cannot target
Is it? No way is that card a mercenary.
I learned it the hard way. It's also very funny if somebody plays Oko, the one from Lorwyn, and gives the changeling to the creature, then you cannot you shoot the Sheriff anymore. But I personally like it. I can see arguments for playing Heartless Act. then you'll have other kind of issues, right, with landfall. But
I didn't like Heartless Act when trying that, and I think Shoot the Sheriff is actually really well placed right now, especially with all the green decks, because you want to. This is like aimed at a big dirty green creature, really, or most times, and there is a lot of targets for that.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And then I mean, lengthwise, we already touched the mana base. I put one Agna Kella. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Agna Kella.
It's a nice land, it does things. It filters also the bad cards, as we said, if you don't need them. So it's more for the long game, really. But beside that, I didn't feel like putting other utility lands. So I saw some lists trying the other black land from Avatar. I think is Spirit Realm something.
Is that the one that makes lands? The one makes 1/1s, is it?
Yeah, it makes 1/1 spirits that cannot block and can't be blocked unless you control spirit. I mean maybe it's worth a consideration, but again, it's a potential tap land turn 2. So
all I can say is I've been playing this Agna Quella, or whatever you want to call it, in my Dimir Midrange deck, and I took it out, and I noticed that when I flooded, and as Sam said, there's no like filtration. Just having the one copy of this like has genuinely won me games in grindy games where I've just like I don't need to make any more land drops, kept the lands in my hand, had this out, just cycle it around, cycle it away. It's so, like I've really liked this land, like really liked it. I don't think I'll cut this from my list.
It's funny because Dimir, you can look at standard deck, 5 color elementals. Wow, mana must be fantastic. Dimir mana base is really bad. Fundamentally, compared to other standard decks, it's really, really bad. What Marco said before about the struggle to cast Bitter Bloombearer on turn 2 is 100% accurate. If you look at Dimir Midrange, what Dimir Midrange has to do is it has to play cards like Soulstone Sanctuary to capitalize off Kaito and keep that tempo plan going. But you also have to play Multiversal Passage, which is not only a pain to track in paper, but it is just like...
It's awful. I hate that.
It feels a little embarrassing when they go Cavern Souls and you go Multiversal Passage, And one thing I have to commend this deck design on, the mana is very, very clean. I love that the mana is nice and simple, and you don't actually get too complicated with it. I don't like the idea that just because there is utility lands and you have to play one in each color, right? I just like the fact that this deck acknowledges what it's trying to do, goes, I can play one utility land only because I get to play so many basics, which is why the cycle doesn't show up too often in standards, because a lot of people are on non-basics. But I just like I think people can get lost in the source in the mana base, right? I'm going to play one of these and one of those and 2 of these. And like it's funny because compared to Dimir Midrange, this deck's mana base is so much better. And I love 8 Swamp. I really, really love 8 Swamp, especially when you consider Gloomwake Verge to be island.
Yes.
When I've been deck building, I've been considering Gloomwake Verges as islands because it's either going to be a dual land or it's going to be an island.
Yeah.
And you may be sat there at home going, come on, surely it doesn't happen too often. It can and it does.
It does.
It does. Yeah. Like, I really funny story. I had a great hand playing this deck, bit of a different build, but this deck, and I had 2 Gloomwake Verges and really good black spells in the matchup, and I kept it on the draw. Missed land drop number 3. Land drop number for my 4th turn was Gloomwake Verge.
Brilliant.
Like I just got the Tron, but yeah, I think that like it might seem a little heavy on Swamp, but if you consider Gloomwake Verge as an island, I really like how this deck's constructed. Also, Restless, you only have to play 2 passage as well, where like Dimir Midrange has to play 3 to 4, so you can get away with it a lot.
I played 2 passage cleaner in my Dimir list, and I found that fine.
Yeah, I think 2's a good number. Restless Reef, absolute really good card, right? Restless Reef was super impressive to me.
Yeah.
How's that played here?
Yeah. So, I mean, I love the card. So it's a typical card that, especially now in the Excruciator meta. So 4 might be a lot for the deck. I'm always a believer of not playing tap lands, especially if you're playing a mid-range deck. You wanna hit your curve.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, and when I used to play Golgari a lot in the past the list were running 4 Restless Cottages, and I decided to cut one because I really wanted more that, turn 3 untap land or turn 2 and so on. So here I chose to run 4. I could see cutting 1 in a different meta, but it's just so good against Excruciator, this deck, which is now seeing a lot of play, because they have to be really, really careful when, going in for the combo about your own Restless Reef, because you could, Uno reverse, let's say, what they're doing, which is kind of funny. So this naturally, let's say, help you in that matchup. Obviously, very good if you're playing against control, because then you have that extra reach. And let's not forget, this stuff you can also target yourself, right? So you could find targets for Spider-Man, or you could mill Winter Night Stories. So you're always happy when you mill yourself. So you don't necessarily need to mill your opponent. So yeah, I really love the land. Yeah.
I think where the difference between using this land in this deck and say this land in say Restless Reef in like a Dimir Midrange point of view, and I know we keep going back to Dimir Midranges in the tempo version because it's good to make the similarities between why you would pick this over that, for example. And I think that if I have to target myself with Restless Reef playing Dimir Midrange, it's because I don't want to fill their graveyard, where you can actually think, well, I could just mill myself and get some value. Where if you say against like a control deck, says, you know what, I'm going to mill them because the longer the game goes on, the less cards they've got access to, the better for me, for example. Really interesting. 100%. Are you happy with?
And they have to respect the hex, right? So they have to. Sorry, what I mean by that, I mean the opponent obviously needs to respect you having hex for their Restless Reef, but on the other side, usually people would cut hex against you because it literally has no targets except the reef, right?
Yeah.
But that card can just take over the game.
I would cut hex against you. Without if I didn't see if I saw like one Restless Reef, I'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever, cut hex because it's dead. But like, you're quite right. Like the premier removal card for 0 to 1 mana creatures or 2 mana, is hex, and you just cut it out. That's actually a really good point.
Yeah. And also this deck dodges Spell Snare pretty much. Like if you think about it, there is nothing that costs 2 except a Bitter Triumph and Shoot the Sheriff.
Yes. We had this conversation, didn't we, Sam, on the RCQ? Because we were arguing like, keeping Spell Snare against reanimated decks now, and then the argument against it, and me and Sam had quite a good conversation about that.
But by good conversation, you came over. I lost the game.
I didn't want to say.
Spell Snare stuck in my hand.
I didn't want to say.
I had a Spell Snare stuck in my hand because I have to just forgetting about this deck text. Sorry, Marco. This is personal.
All right.
I had a strategy in mind, and then I abandoned that strategy halfway through the game. Got immediately punished. So I misplayed. That's fine. But it comes to the end of the game, and I have the Spell Snare in hand. And obviously, we've entered Deceit Town by that point, right? Yeah. We are living in Deceit Town. And I lose. My opponent was Christopher, who is a local Liverpool player. Always really enjoy playing against them. We have great games of Magic.
I've had some good
games. Shook hands. Well done, well played. And I had lost 0.1 seconds later. Joshua, that's wrong. That's wrong. Shouldn't keep in Spell Snare against them.
Have.
And I was trying to explain, like, I get where you're coming from.
I'm trying to be nice.
I had this strategy where I abandoned it and got punished for it. And I was trying to explain this concept, and Josh was like, it's wrong. Which is, probably right. But, you got to test and work things out. Yeah. And Jack was just staring at us.
What was your strategy, by the way? What was your strategy?
Counter 2 mana spells.
So, like 2 copies of Bitter Triumph.
Yeah. So what happened was
this is Christian logic right here. This is like Christian Chad Magic logic.
I realized that the main piece of interaction for Kaito was Bitter Triumph.
Yeah.
And Bitter Triumph was the linchpin in that matchup and would break that matchup wide apart. But I animated a Risen Reef without leaving open a blue to protect it, attacked for lethal, or attacked for a pretty large chunk, and I got Bitter Triumph, discarding Bitter Triumph.
So
anyway, look, Josh, we pay for couples therapy. We'll figure it out in the future.
To be fair, though, the biggest answer to Kaito in this list is also Deceit. Is another answer.
Very
Triumph is like clean, but Deceit deals with Kaito pretty well.
Look, we'll figure it out in couples therapy. I believe we're strong enough to get through it. Marco, anything else on the main deck here that you'd like to add, or any tips and tricks?
No, I think I covered everything. I mean, the deck itself is quite straightforward, I would say, to play.
It's clean.
It doesn't have too many tips and tricks beside what I mentioned already. So yeah, no, I think we can move maybe to the sideboard now.
Please.
Just a couple of words. So first of all, I feel like the standard meta is evolving so quickly. So it might be that 2 days later, this whole sideboard will look completely different because there's a lot of changes going on. And this sideboard is reflecting the current meta that I've been experiencing online and on paper. To quickly go through the list, Annul, great card. I love it against Landfall and Lesson, so that's why you're running it pretty much. There is also an argument to bring it against Living End, so I like it also there because you target their Overload, you target their the Saga. So it has some relevant targets. They might be running also Ghost Vacuum and so on. So it is quite nice to play against Living End. Then I have a one-off Cruel Close Heist. So this card is like quite good. I was surprised. I admit I started testing it because I saw it in the PT list. I wasn't really a big fan of it before, but then I said let's give it a shot. This card is especially good when you want more hand hate, and also when you are in the mirror. Like especially in the mirror is super good. By mirror I mean Dimir Doomsday, because there are not so many of this list around. The fact you can get their best card and then use it against them is usually huge. And there are some, like decks that actually you really want to steal their cards.
Yeah.
So having access to something that takes it, and maybe you get a Riddler out of their hand, then you're magically ahead in the game. Or you steal again against Dimir Tempo, you steal their cat. That's pretty huge, right? Or you steal their Kaito. I mean, that's a bit awkward in this deck to run Kaito, but still better in your hands than in theirs. So I was really impressed with this card. I don't think the deck needs more than one. It's kind of a flex card. It can work in many matchups. Not so good if you are on the draw, but if you're in the play, it's pretty good.
So the way this works as well, just because I've never cast this card, but the way it works, just I'm sure you understand it, but you gift a card first and then they reveal, right?
Yeah, correct.
Right.
Correct.
So you got a higher chance of seeing something good.
Yeah. So you decide. Like I wouldn't recommend maybe I don't know, gifting a card completely in the blind, or if maybe they don't have, like it depends what you feel like they're having. So if they didn't do anything impressive for a couple of turns, maybe gifting it might not be always the right idea. You might somehow help them.
Yeah.
So it can be a bit. You have to be a bit careful. The beautiful thing about it, if they have no cards in their library and you give them the card, they instant lose. And this actually can come up. So it's a secret mode that. Yeah, it's a secret mode. You make them draw one extra card, and it could be fatal potentially, right? Because maybe you attack with the Restless Reef, and then you cast the Heist.
Yeah.
So basically, they mill 5 cards, right? So it can be pretty relevant. Then Deadly Cover Up. Really like the card. It's very good, especially against Landfall. I think it's one of the best cards you can play against Landfall, Deadly Cover Up. If you somehow manage to exile their enchantment that makes 3 folks, that's amazing. It's also very good against Doomsday, right? I feel like if you exile all their Spider-Man, that matchup becomes a lot easier for you.
Yeah.
You don't have to live in fear of, they stealing your Deceit and things like that.
I also saw a trick.
It's a good all-around card.
There's also a trick with this with the Excruciator, because I was listening to a podcast. I think it might have been Carney's, the Mengu one, and he said the guy who's on Excruciator actually won a game because he knew the makeup of the guy's hand, And then when they collected evidence and they exiled like 3 of the two cards in their hand that they knew about, which meant that they have to draw 2.
Yeah.
So it's like an Uno reverse, as you said before.
Oh, that's sick. That's nice. Yeah.
And also maybe another little trick about Deadly Cover Up is that you don't need to exile exactly, I don't know, the value of 6, right? Like you can actually exile your full graveyard. And there are some instances that you actually want to do. So you do that. So in the for example the mirror match or the Doomsday matchup, right? You might not want to leave some targets in your graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
So you exile your full graveyard, and in this way, they're not able to target anything with their Spider-Man or with their Deadly Cover-Up. So it can be also a defense mechanism against their Deadly Cover-Up in the mirror. And it's something that, again, it can come up. You don't want them to exile all your Spider-Man, I can guarantee you that. Just moving on, this name's...
Oh, sorry, Marco. There's something I've realized with this card, and I we've been talking a little bit off camera, and like I've played a little bit of this, especially once the fantastic Marco started doing well with it too. I was inspired. One thing that's really cool about this card that I did not realize is if you're playing against Earthbending and they have an Earthbent Forest, you can exile all the forests from the deck as well, which is like pretty cool. Usually it's like up to four with that name, or like, there's usually a limit on it. But because Earthbending's a delayed trigger and this resolves before triggers, would resolve from your opponent because it's all one resolution, you get to potentially take 6-8 forests out of the deck as well. Or I think that might be a bit cute. What's really good is if you hit Fabled Passage, you get to take all of Landfall's Fabled Passages. Or what's the little evolving was? Is it Access Tunnel? Something like that?
Something like that,
yeah.
That you get to eat the fetch lands, or 8 forests, I guess, if you want to be cute. But for a deck like Cub that plays 2 lands and then goes hard, and if you exile the forest, they could struggle to come back from that. So it's cool to be able to exile basic lands with this too.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I admit it never came up, but now that you mention it, I'll remember. Yeah, it's a cool line. Yeah. Then I have this Dane's full stroke. Sorry, not easy to pronounce for me. Thank you. Again, meta cool. I think it actually plays really well, this counter spell right now. So much stuff that costs 4 mana or more. Elementals being one of them. It hits so many good stuff, especially in the landfall matchup. It's a very good all-around card in my opinion. Again, you don't want it in every single matchup, but if you're playing against the Doomsday, you want this because it hits so many things. So then the rest, kind of obvious. I like to play 4. I like to hit my duresses in time. The fact the deck plays Riddler, it's fine to go down on cards. You actually welcome that. So I like to have 4 personally. And then we have one of my favorite cards, Outrageous Robbery. So I was running also this card in my Golgari midrange deck back in the days. First of all, it's hilarious against Doomsday because you can basically take exile the entire library or nearly all of it. So that's already hilarious. But beside that, it's super good in the Grandy matchups. Even if the cards you steal are not that exciting, maybe, or they don't work so well with your deck, it's just the value at the end of the day, right? Sometimes, as we said, a vanilla 4/4 can do the job. If you play it against, let's say you're playing against a Spelemental, you get their big guys. That's just so good. In the mirror, even better. Against Living End, fantastic. You get so much good stuff. So yeah, really love the card. Obviously, you don't want more than one because it really shines more late to the game. Then Soul Guide Lantern, kind of obvious. It's against graveyard decks. I have to say one thing I started disliking about this card is that it says exile each opponent's graveyard, which is quite relevant the moment Spider-Man is in the format and they can, choose what to copy.
Yeah.
So, you'll be forced to use it to exile my graveyard, but your graveyard will be completely untouched. And sometimes actually you really want to protect your own graveyard from Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So it can get really, really awkward. I still think it's a necessary evil right now. I saw some players playing Ghost Vacuum instead, or split between Soul Guide and Ghost Vacuum. For now, I'm on that. But again, in a Spider-Man meta, it can get really awkward.
Yeah, because you can't. The way Spider-Man works as well, it comes in automatically. There's no target, right? It comes in, and then I'm a copy of this, and then the exile trigger goes in the stack. So yeah, it's awkward with Ghost Vacuum, and also Ghost Vacuum can't be it's a least efficient. I only say this because I've tested this. This is my experience of testing this. Ghost Vacuum isn't the win condition it once was because of Deceit and Wistfulness. It'll never survive to turn 6 to get value from it, and yeah.
So it's not an amazing card, Soul Guide, but it's what we have. So I'm playing it. At least it can cycle itself. So it's all right. And then one more copy Strategic Betrayal. Again, that's for the graveyard decks. So yeah, that's about it. That's about the sideboard. If you click on the primer, I mean, we'll not go through it now, but you see how I've been sideboarding against the top meta decks. So I'm not gonna now read it all. But if you have some questions, just write a comment below the video. I'll try to get back to you, or just contact me on X or through, I don't know, Discord. I'm happy to answer.
Cheers, Marco. And like I said, this will be in the bottom in the description for you to peruse, the listeners peruse in their own time. But yeah, thank you for doing that, Marco. And it's a super cool deck. Like, and I really like, that you were right in terms of what's popping up in terms of meta, and you'll find that especially if you're grinding more on paper, you'll sort of see the same sort of decks. You sort of figure out your local meta quite easily, and this might be a deck that could be brought to that meta, brought to your meta, and just do really well, steal an RCQ, get that qualification, or even just win some good prizes with it. But the fact that this is here for free as well is great. So we do appreciate your time with this, Marco, and the support for the team as well.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, guys. It was a pleasure as usual.
Before we go, though,
hopefully
Sam...
next time.
Go on, sorry.
Hopefully next time. Sorry.
Hopefully next time.
Hopefully next time I can finish the sentence. No, I'm kidding.
Hopefully
next time. Sorry. Hopefully next time we can make another video about me qualifying for the next PT. But
yeah. That'll be good.
Hopefully that's the next time. Yeah.
So we do appreciate you coming on, Marco. We appreciate your energy, your enthusiasm, and your professionalism that you bring to the team. So thank you very much, and also the community support with providing your research data and so in a way. Sam, do you want you've got anything to say on this list before I'm going to pass it over to you to do the sign off?
So first of all, Marco, thank you very much. For those who don't know, me, Josh, most of the team are based around Liverpool, and then you got Joshua a little further afield. But sadly, Marco is all the way over in Germany. So whenever we get to, we don't chat as much as I'd like to, Marco, honestly, because I don't see you every week. So it's an absolute pleasure having you on. Just being able to milk your brain over Magic play. You're very articulate and defined player. I always enjoy playing against you, and honestly, I enjoy hearing you chat about Magic. So thank you very much for coming on. In terms of deck, I think the deck's very cool. Deceit's a very cool card, and honestly, realistically, I like that if you have the Dimir base, if you have the bread of the lands and the spells and whatever, I like that you get to choose the meat of your sandwich. And realistically, if you are a Dimir player, you get to pick between this, Excruciator, and Tempo. It's a really good position to be in when they all have good matchups and bad matchups, and the meta changes week by week. So realistically, if you're invested in Dimir, this is a really good plan B or plan C even, if you have one of the other Dimir strategies. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for, I said milking your brain. I don't like that term, but I'm going to use it again. Thank you for letting us milk your brain. And I'm going to, if you have enjoyed today's episode, if there's any questions you want for Marco, or if you want your brain to be milked, leave a comment, like, share, subscribe. Really helps out the channel. The algorithms just, they really promote material based on engagement. So any engagement is very, very welcome. If you want to check Marco out, we're going to leave Marco's socials and where you can find this deck primer and guide below. So if you do want to check anything out, it's going to be there for you to check out. In terms of us, me, Josh, are on Twitter. The battlechads are on Twitter, X, Twitter, I don't know, whatever that platform's called.
Whatever it is.
Whatever it is. So if you want to check out prior episodes or future episodes, make sure to keep an eye out there where we post most of our stuff. And as always, thank you. Big shout out to our sponsors over UltraPRO. If you are going to be using Deceit, the one thing you won't be deceived by is the quality of those sleeves. So make sure you go check them out. Make sure you go check them out, give them a shuffle, and we will see you next week on Battlechads.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.